Welcome to the Madison Miller Podcast special emergency Sunday night show. A lot of stuff has happened over the weekend, so there's some things that I would normally discuss in the Monday news and notes section that I'm going to discuss on tonight's special show. We'll start with the college football playoff. The top 4 came out. It's the rest of the top 25. I'm going to reveal 1 through 25 and go over what I had and compare. The number 1 in the final college football playoff rankings, Georgia. Number 2, Michigan. Number 3, TCU. Number 4, Ohio State. That was my predicted top 4. 5, Alabama. 6, Tennessee. I also had that. 7, Clemson. I had them 9th. 8th, Utah. I had them 7th. 9th, Kansas State. I had them 11th. 10th, USC. I had them 8th. So USC took a big dump by dropping to 10 after losing to Utah in the Pac-12 title game. 11, Penn State. I had them 10. That was unnecessary for Penn State to drop. 12, Washington. I also had Washington. 13, Florida State. I had that. 14, Oregon State. I had them 15. 15, Oregon. I had them 16. 17, LSU. I had them 14. But they did just lose the SEC championship game, so I guess they got punished for that. But they did lose to a superior Georgia team, so I guess I undersold that. And I forgot about the A&M loss, too. 18, UCLA. I had them 17. So 16 was Tulane. I had them 18. I said LSU, UCLA. 19, South Carolina. I had them 19. 20, Texas. I had them 21. 21, Notre Dame. I had them 20. 22, Mississippi State. That's what I had them. 23, NC State. That's where I had them. 24, Troy. Congratulations to Troy for winning the Sun Belt and making the final college football playoff rankings. Deserving there. And then congratulations to the Conference USA champion, the UTSA Roadrunners. They sneak in at 25. So UCF and UNC bow out of the rankings, and they're replaced by 2 Group of 5 champions. I guess they didn't think that Fresno State was good enough to be in the top 25, which I agree with. I thought they were an overrated team all year, pretty much. Bet against them a bunch of times, took the under in their game against Boise State on Saturday. So Texas and Notre Dame, I felt, should have been in opposite spots. Notre Dame has that win over Clemson, and I think that's better than anything Texas has. They would have... Why? A loss to Alabama is better than a win over Clemson? They lost. Like, come on. Texas is not back. I've been saying that for months. And 8-4, Texas is not back. I'm sorry. They're just not. So, bowl games, if I'm not mistaken, not every one of them has been reported. But the college football playoff, we know, the 4:30 game on ESPN will be the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl between Georgia and Ohio State, so it's technically a home game for Georgia. And then 8 o'clock on ESPN will be the Goodyear Cotton Bowl between Michigan and TCU. So that will be from Dallas. The Rose Bowl is going to be Utah against Penn State. Yeah, I think it's Utah, Penn State. The Sugar Bowl's Alabama, Kansas State, which is a really good game. So the bowl schedule is out, yes. So, I'm sorry, the Fiesta Bowl from Glendale, not the Cotton Bowl from Texas. That was my mistake. And then the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, I was right, Georgia and Ohio State. So, national championship game on the 9th. So, the Sugar Bowl will be on New Year's Eve at noon between Bama and Kansas State. And it's odd because that's on New Year's Eve during the day, and the Rose Bowl is on January 2nd at 5 o'clock. It's Utah and Penn State. I was right. The Cotton Bowl is USC Tulane on the 2nd. And then the Orange Bowl will be on the 30th at 8 o'clock between Tennessee and Clemson, which would be a great game, despite no Hendon Hooker, I think. Because I think that Tennessee can still score some points a little bit. So we'll see. The rest of the bowl games. So December 16th, and by the way, the national championship game is at SoFi Stadium this year on the January 9th. So December 16th, 2 bowls on a Friday, 11:30 a.m. on ESPN, Miami of Ohio, UAB, and the Bahamas Bowl. The Cure Bowl, 3 p.m. ESPN, UTSA, and Troy. Saturday the 17th, 11 a.m. on ESPN from Fenway, the Fenway Bowl, Cincinnati, Louisville. The Celebration Bowl, noon on ABC, between the Deionless Jackson State team and NC Central. Then 2:15 ESPN, the New Mexico Bowl, SMU and BYU. The Kimmel Bowl, Fresno and Wazoo, 3:30 ABC. Lending Tree is 5:45 ESPN on the 17th, Rice and Southern Miss. The Vegas Bowl, 7:30 in primetime on ABC, Florida and Oregon State. The Frisco Bowl, 9:15 on ESPN, North Texas and Boise State. Monday, December 19th, 2:30 ESPN, Myrtle Beach Bowl, Marshall and Yukon. The 20th, the Idaho Potato Bowl, 3:30 ESPN from Boise, Eastern Michigan and San Jose State. Boca Raton, 7:30 ESPN will be Liberty and Toledo. The 21st, 9 o'clock on ESPN, the New Orleans Bowl, Western Kentucky and South Alabama. The 22nd, 7:30 on ESPN, Baylor and Air Force in the Armed Forces Bowl. Friday the 23rd, 3 o'clock on ESPN, Louisiana, Houston, the Independence Bowl. The Gasparilla Bowl, 6:30 ESPN, Wake in Missouri. Christmas Eve, 8 o'clock on ESPN, the Hawaii Bowl, Middle Tennessee, San Diego State. That's the Steve Levy Invitational, as I like to call it, because he calls that every year. No bowls on Christmas. That's going to be some NFL and NBA that day. And college basketball, if I'm not mistaken. December 26th from Ford Field, the Quick Lane Bowl, 2:30 ESPN, New Mexico State Bowling Green. The 27th, noon ESPN, the Camellia Bowl, Georgia Southern Buffalo. 3:15 ESPN, First Responder Bowl from Dallas, the Gerald Ford Stadium, Memphis, Utah State. The Birmingham Bowl, 6:45 ESPN, from Birmingham, Coastal Carolina, and East Carolina. Coastal obviously doesn't have their coach anymore, who left to go to Liberty. 10:15, Guaranteed Rate Bowl from Chase Field in Phoenix, Wisconsin, Oklahoma State. So the 28th, you have the Military Bowl, UCF and Duke, 2 o'clock on ESPN. 5:30 ESPN, the Liberty Bowl, Kansas and Arkansas. Oh my God, you know the world's going to be betting on Kansas in that game. Petco Park, 8 o'clock on Fox, Oregon, North Carolina. So that's going to be Gus Johnson's game. That's the Holiday Bowl. The Texas Bowl from Houston, Texas Tech, and Ole Miss. The 29th, 2 o'clock, the Pinstripe Bowl from Yankee Stadium, Syracuse, and Minnesota. 5:30 ESPN, the Cheez-It Bowl, Oklahoma and Florida State. The Alamo Bowl's good. 9 o'clock ESPN, Texas and Washington. That's not bad for that bowl. Cheez-It Bowl's really good, too. So 2 good bowl games on the 29th. And then the 30th, the Mayo Bowl, Maryland and NC State, noon on ESPN. The Sun Bowl, Pitt, UCLA on CBS. The Gator Bowl, 3:30 ESPN, Notre Dame, South Carolina. The Arizona Bowl from Arizona Stadium, Ohio and Wyoming. That's a 4:30 game. We talked about the Orange Bowl already. New Year's Eve, noon on ABC, the Music City Bowl, Iowa and Kentucky from Nashville. We talked about the Sugar Bowl already. January 2nd, the Relia Quest Bowl from Tampa, noon on ESPN 2, Mississippi State and Illinois. The Citrus Bowl, 1 o'clock on ABC, LSU and Purdue. We talked about the Cotton Bowl already, being that afternoon, 1 o'clock ESPN, and at 5 o'clock is the Rose Bowl. So there you have it for the bowl games. Some of these bowl games are pretty good. Others are not. And we have the next couple of weeks to discuss these bowls and make picks on the podcast. So I wanted to start the college football playoff. Next thing I want to discuss, let's go to baseball. The biggest story that happened in Major League Baseball was the Texas Rangers signing Jacob deGrom. 5 years, $185 million. An absolute stunner of a signing to some. The Rangers were rumored for deGrom. I think that this could be really, really good or really, really bad, depending on his health. He immediately becomes the ace of that rotation. We'll see what happens with Martin Perez. John Gray's in that rotation. They have some other promising arms. deGrom has pitched in big games. He's pitched in the World Series. So a big signing for Texas. They wanted to go after Garrett Cole 3 years ago, but missed out. They've missed out on some other big pitching free agents. They wanted Kershaw, but Kershaw doesn't want to leave the Dodgers. It never does. He's a Dodger for life, as we know. So they finally get a guy that can lead their rotation in Jacob deGrom. But to me, this still doesn't put them with the Mariners and the Astros in that division. I honestly think they're closer to the Angels and the Athletics still than the Mariners and the Astros. Like that division right now, I'd say it's Astros, Mariners. Pick your poison between the Angels and the Rangers, and then Oakland's obviously going to be last. They're on the verge of trading Sean Murphy, but they're doing that because they have some young catching prospects in their system that they really like. So I understand why they are doing that. But Texas, at best, is the third best team in that division, and at worst, they're fourth. They're right there. They're like tied with the Angels for me. And Astros, whether Verlander's back or not, to me, they're still the team to beat in that division because they went out and signed Jose Abreu and brought back Rafael Montero, and they're in place for some other guys as well, such as Wilson Contreras and Andrew Benintendi. So we'll see what happens there at Houston. I think the biggest story heading into the winter meetings is Aaron Judge and where he chooses to sign. The San Francisco Giants, believe it or not, are a minus 130 favorite to sign him. I personally think that the Vegas lines aren't always right when it comes to free agents. In any sport, don't forget that the Broncos were not favored to sign Peyton Manning in 2012. The favorite to sign him, I think, was the Miami Dolphins, if I'm not mistaken. I feel like they were the favorites, or the 49ers, it was somebody. The Buccaneers were not the favorites to sign Tom Brady. The Knicks were the favorites to sign Kevin Durant, not the Nets. Like, you can go on in sports. And in hockey, the Islanders were the favorites to sign Artemi Panarin, not the Rangers. The Devils were, I think, the favorites to sign Johnny Gaudreau, not the Blue Jackets. Like, you can go on with players in each sport. And we're going to see it potentially with Lionel Messi if/when he goes to the MLS. The rumors that Miami's favored to sign Messi, we don't even know if he's going to definitely go to Miami or not. That's just what Vegas thinks and what insight they're getting. And sometimes people lie to Vegas. And a good example of that is also the draft. When you see draft odds in the NFL and the NBA and see where money is. And that's not always correct either. And I think the Yankees were like plus 120, plus 125 or something. The Dodgers were 250. The Mets were 5-1. The Astros were 750. The field was plus 725 for Judge. But at gunpoint, I do think he's back in New York with the Yankees. I think that's where he wants to be. He should trust Brian Cashman more so than the Giants. Because what else have the Giants done? Like, the Giants don't have anything in place right now. So you have to buy into what Farhan Zaidi is trying to sell you. If he goes to San Francisco, you got to give Mr. Bay Area, Steph Curry, some credit because he obviously is involved in the recruitment of Aaron Judge for the Giants, and that's probably why the Giants are favored to sign him, because Curry was involved and probably shoved his rings in Judge's face and says, where's New York's a shit sports town right now, and we're awesome, and the Giants are desperate, and we want the Giants to be champions like us. So, that's the case if you're Curry and the San Francisco Giants recruiting Aaron Judge. That's probably what your argument is, and especially for Steph to be involved. That's a scary thought. He would probably be in the Pat Riley role from when LeBron signed with Miami, just shoved his rings in front of him. So let's see if that pays off or not if you're San Francisco. But the Yankees can ill afford to lose Aaron Judge. I've been saying this on the podcast for a year now. And there's rumors out there that if they lose out on Judge, then they're going to go on a big spending spree, just like the old days. But guess what? Aaron Judge is better than a big spending spree. Aaron Judge is the best player in baseball. Aaron Judge just broke the home run record. Ignore the fact that idiots in his own fan base booed him for poor performances in the playoffs, because the rest of his team was dog shit in the playoffs as well. But, put that all aside. He's the best player in baseball, hands down. Not Mike Trout, not Shohei Ohtani. It's Aaron freaking Judge. Pay the man if you're the Yankees. And I'd rather have Judge than Ohtani, although Ohtani, the case for him is that he pitches too, and the Yankees need a number 2 behind Garrett Cole in that rotation. I'm not sold on Nestor Cortez at all. To me, he's like a Julius Randle type. When I mean by that is career year regresses. That's a safe prediction, I assume, because Nestor Cortez was never good until this past season. So we'll see about that. But ultimately, I do think Judge goes back, and I think he wants to be the captain and loves the judges' chambers and knows that if he goes to San Francisco, his stats won't be as good as they are in Yankee Stadium with the short home run porches in both left and right field, unlike San Francisco, who just has a somewhat short porch. Not even really a short porch, but a short area in right field, but a large area in left field. And that is a pitcher's ballpark, San Francisco, not a hitter's ballpark. So we'll see what happens with Judge. And that is the big story to watch in the winter meetings, of course. So Boston, negotiations with Bogarts have fallen apart. Looks like he's going to leave. The Orioles should be in on some of these big names so they could potentially make that next step from being a spunky team to becoming a contender. I'm excited to see what they can do. The Blue Jays, they're Vegas darlings already. They're the second pick in the AL East behind the Yankees. But the Vegas odds have the Yankees at 10-1 to win the World Series, and the Blue Jays at 11-1. So that tells you the fact that the Yankees are 10-1 to win the World Series. The Yankees would probably be 30-1 if Judge leaves. So the World Series odds are trying to tell you that they think he's staying. But I think the Blue Jays made a mistake in trading Teoscar Hernandez. I think that he was a good player for them, so they might come back to regret that one. The Rays signed Kyle Gibson. Or I'm sorry, Zach Eflin, which is an interesting signing for them. We talked about that on the podcast the other day. Kyle Gibson actually did sign with the Baltimore Orioles. So, that is a very interesting signing for them. I like it a lot. So, I really do like it right in the middle of that rotation for Baltimore. The AL Central, the Guardians, I predicted them to trade for Brian Reynolds from Pittsburgh. I like that fit for them a lot. They need more bats to go around Jose Ramirez and Steven Kwan. And I'm not convinced that Kwan's season was a fluke. He might be the hitter Julius Randle in that regard. The White Sox want to bounce back. The Tigers and the Royals want to try. The Twins are going to try. So there's nobody that's tanking in the AL Central. And there's no one tanking in the East either. The only tank team really is Oakland. And even Oakland is going to at least try in 2024, you would think. So that's interesting. We talked about the West already a little bit. Seattle made an interesting trade. They traded away Jesse Winker to the Milwaukee Brewers for Abraham Toro and Colton Wong. Interesting trade. I don't know if I love it per se. But I do like them getting Teoscar, though. I'll give them that. National League, we didn't even talk about the Mets with the loss of the DeGrom. We'll just start with them. It's a loss, but they can replace it. They can go out and sign Verlander. They can go out or potentially trade for Ohtani. They have potential moves they can make. They can sign Carlos Rodon. They can bring back Chris Bassett, who I think that fan base kind of turned on him in the playoffs because he wet the bed. So I'm interested to see what the Mets do to replace DeGrom. They got to re-sign Brandon Nimmo, I think, because he's important to what they do. The Phils lose Gibson, but I don't think that's a big loss for them per se. I think they can upgrade that spot in their rotation very easily. They need a shortstop. I think it's going to be either Bogarts or Trey Turner. Atlanta. Dansby Swanson, I think they'll bring him back. But if they lose him, where do they go? And then the Marlins and the Nats are... the Marlins are going to try. The Nats are a tanking team. We'll see if they dump Scherzer and Strasburg. Or not Scherzer and Strasburg. Corbin and Strasburg. I had Scherzer in my head because I was just talking about the Mets. See if they can dump Strasburg and Corbin somewhere. Like I said, I think the Marlins are going to try to do things and try to improve their offense. The Central, the Cards, I think that they're always a wild card in the offseason. They tend to make big splashes. They trade for Arenado. They trade for Goldschmidt several years ago. And I wonder if a big move, something similar to that, could be next. I thought they were going to sign DeGrom potentially, but that's not going to happen. Maybe they sign Verlander. Who knows? The Cubs, I think they're going to try because they're the Cubs and they don't want to be lousy. And we'll see what they do. I don't think they're going to re-sign Contreras. The Brewers made that trade I alluded to earlier. I like the Winker fit for them. They needed outfield help. But we'll see if they get another bat in there. Pittsburgh's obviously going to trade Brian Reynolds. They're obviously another tank team. And the Reds are obviously going to be trying to ship some veterans out of there as well. The Dodgers are going to go big like they always do, or try big things. Maybe they are a sleeper for Judge. They're eyeing Verlander. So we'll see what happens with them. San Francisco, their offseason looks like Judge or bust. But to me, the Yankees' offseason is Judge or bust. But people in San Francisco are making their offseason to be Judge or bust. So we'll see what happens if they get Judge or not. But if they do get Judge, they're going to be like, they got their guy. They got their guy. But let's be real, he's the Yankees guy, and the Yankees got to bring him back. So we'll see what San Francisco does. If they lose out on Judge, they probably are going to go for like Trey Turner and Verlander and like some of the other big names. So I don't think it's a failure if the Giants don't sign Judge. I don't. I think it's a failure if the Yankees don't sign Judge, obviously. But if the Giants don't sign him, I think they have other avenues that they can go. Like Trey Turner, I think would be a great fit there. I think Bogarts would be a great fit. And I don't even know if I like the fit of Judge in San Francisco because that's a big ballpark. San Diego, I think, will try to do something at the winter meetings because it's in San Diego. And you think that A.J. Preller might want to make a big splash. Arizona, I think, is a sleeper team to make a big move. I predicted that they were going to sign Correa. We'll see about that. And then the Rockies are the Rockies. They're just lousy. They might be a tank team. But maybe they tried to build around Chris Bryant and some of the pieces they have there. But their pitchers, I think, could be available. So we'll see about that. All right, so baseball's done. And NFL, we'll talk more about that on tomorrow's show. But the big thing today is that Jimmy Garoppolo hurt his ankle. He's out for the season. Brutal news for the 49ers. So, I gotta be honest, that's a season changer for them. And to me, that might knock them out of playoff contention for me. They might be finished for the season, honestly, because I don't trust Brock Purdy to be the guy. And he wasn't terrible today, but I just think the Dolphins just wet their pants in that game. I think the Dolphins blew that game more than the 49ers won that game. So I think the 49ers might be finished for the season, but I could be wrong. I'm going to give it some time, but I don't think they're winning their division, that's for sure. And Seattle, to me, is the favorite in that division now. And one media news bite that I want to talk about on this podcast is Chris Felica, the Bear of ESPN, notably for College Game Day, is leaving for Fox. That is a stunner to me. Chris said it in an interview that it all came together so fast. I think it's a wonderful addition for Fox and a terrible blow for ESPN. I wonder if this is secretly a part of the Joe Buck trade, quote unquote. Because I think Joe Buck was ESPN's biggest get in years in terms of a big name. Him and Aikman, obviously. But Felica is a big loss, and he's going to be missed on that show. And he will for sure be a wonderful add to Fox, and he's going to be on the Big Noon Kickoff. He's probably going to have a similar role on that show than he did on Game Day. Very classy Game Day to do a big tribute for him with some pictures and went down memory lane, and they had all of Chris's colleagues talk about him. Kirk Herbstreit's apparently very upset that he is leaving, but obviously I'm sure he's happy for him for his new role as well. But Chris did say that Kirk was like the most bummed which doesn't surprise me. I think Stanford Steve's going to be bummed too because of their close relationship, and Stanford Steve in the Bear podcast, where they did more than just college football. They did college basketball for the tournament every year. They did a podcast on the World Cup. They do the Kentucky Derby. They like to throw in other sports in there with some odds and whatnot. And they are a wonderful watch, or I should say a wonderful listen. They're a wonderful watch on the Daily Wager because they're both on that show. It's a big loss for the Daily Wager. So I think Chris will have his own podcast with Fox somehow. Maybe Tom Rinaldi will be his partner, ironically enough. Because obviously him and Tom worked together on ESPN for all those years, so they have a relationship. I wonder if Tom helped recruit Chris to Fox. So I wonder if he had a voice in that. I wonder if he's going to be on the broadcast with Gus and Joel for their lead game. So it's going to be interesting to see what else Chris does. I wonder if he's going to be involved in their college basketball coverage. He's going to be involved on the NFL kickoff show with some betting stuff, which would be really cool to see. So congrats to the Bear. Very happy for him. ESPN has got to be bummed that he's leaving, but I'm sure they're excited for him and bigger opportunities. And apparently he's going to be on their horse racing coverage on Fox Sports 1 as well. And we know Chris loves his ponies. So I think this is probably one of the bigger, stunning broadcaster/media moves we've seen. Probably the second biggest one to Buck and Aikman leaving Fox for ESPN. But it's probably a part of that trade. So that's it for the Sunday night emergency show. I'll do the regular show on Monday with all the regular Monday stuff. Hope you guys have a great night.